questions before I start my topic?
Shiva, you can continue.
Excellent. So yesterday we are trying to talk about the concepts of domain controller, slave controller. We talked even about the master, slave, server group, etc. and etc. So today what we'll try to do is that today we'll try to extend the same thing. I hope everyone is able to see the notepad which we discussed yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we were trying to talk about the concepts like domain controller, slave controller, master, slave, host controller, process controller, everything. Okay. And we also talked about the concept of how we can start a domain. If I want to start a domain, how do I start a domain? And I told that if whenever you want to start any domain, okay, either it might be a master, it might be a slave. You have to say domain.sh. Then I also told that, okay, the moment you execute domain.sh, what will happen is that it will try to go to the Jboss home domain configuration folder, and there is a file called as an host.xml file. It will try to load that particular host.xml file. Depending upon the value you have got it for the host.xml file, accordingly it will become either a master or either it will become a slave. The value of the domain controller is given as local, it becomes a master, or if we have given any reference to that, it will become a slave. This is what we have discussed in our last session. Anyone, any questions?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my question is, on one machine I have local. So how, if I start domain.sh, so how many processes it will start? And if I give remote host and port, and I start domain.sh on another host, so how many processes it will start?
This is the question which I asked yesterday, and I think you all people told the answer. Assuming that there are no servers present inside the master, the moment you say domain.sh and you start your domain, if the value of the domain controller tag is local, it will become a master. So the number of processes in that machine would be 2, assuming no servers. But if the value, the moment you say domain.sh and the configuration file that is loaded, if the value for that is some IP and the port number, it becomes a slave. And the number of processes would be again 1, which is called as a host controller process.
Okay, so the master has the 2 processes. So another is process controller and one is host controller.
One is a domain controller, the other one is a host controller. The domain controller or the master controller.
So is there any difference between host controller and process controller?
Yes. Process controller is the one that will try to control the entire domain. Host controller is the one that will control, administer, and monitor the different resources that are related to its host. When I'm saying host, I'm trying to refer to the host.xml file.
Okay, so when you say domain controller means process controller.
Yeah, domain controller or process controller refers to the same. The process controller will become a domain controller provided the value of the host.xml file for the domain controller tag is local.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sure.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. So since no more questions, okay, yesterday I also told that, okay, assuming that I will discuss about 2 important concepts, wherein which I want to not to use a host.xml file. I want to use my own host.xml file. I want to use my own domain.xml file. Then in those scenarios, how should I give the host.xml file? Am I clear? Yesterday I told that the moment you say domain.sh, okay, what will happen? The domain will be started. How it would be started? It will go to the Jboss home domain directory, and at the domain directory there is a configuration folder. It tries to load the file called as an host.xml file. When it's trying to load the host.xml file, it comes to the domain controller tag. If the value is coming as local, it will become the master. If the value is coming with some IP in the port number, it will become slave. But the question here is that I don't want to use host.xml file. I want to use my own customized host configuration file. What should I do now? Okay, very simple. Let's take a, let me log into my machine. Okay, so I'm saying domain.sh. I'm not doing anything. The moment I say domain.sh, what is happening here? There's some problem with this domain. Oh, 1 second. One second, everyone. One second. Sorry, everyone. Let me just try to. It's a small problem with my configuration file because I'm playing around with it. Mm. Understood the reason. No problem. One second, guys. Okay. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm not doing something great here. There was some problem with that configuration file. The problem here is that I have defined. I'll show you the problem. See the exception here. I hope everyone is able to see my screen. Yes,
Yes.
everyone able to see this screen? So when I'm trying to start the domain.sh, it's saying that no child main server group exists. So no such element. There's no element called as an main server group. So this, whatever the server groups are there, by default the server groups are defined inside the domain.xml file. If you've seen the host.xml file, the host.xml file, as I told to you on the other day, whenever you're trying to create a server, you can create a server only after the server group exists. You can create any number of servers, but all the servers should be assigned to a server group. So what this fellow has did is that he has created a server by name server1 and assigned to a server group called as an main server group. Where are the server groups present? By default, the server groups are defined in the domain.xml file. But in the server group colon in the domain.xml file under the heading colon server group, there is no server group with the name main server group. You're able to see this? As I told you on the other day, that the moment you say start domain.sh, first what will happen? It will go to the default Jboss home domain configuration file and will load the host.xml file. Shiva, can you prove it? See here, what is the default Jboss home it is picking up? OPT EAP 620. So it went to the OPT EAP 620 domain configuration folder and host.xml file, and it has seen that the value of the domain controller tag is local. So what it will do now, it will try to load the domain.xml file. But what is the value of the domain.xml file for the group colon server group? The value is 0. There is no server group by the name main server group or second server group. So obviously what happened in the host, you said that you are trying to create a server, and it's a syntax of the Jboss that whatever the servers you are trying to create, you have to assign to the server group. But the server group to which you have assigned your server called as a main server group, it isn't available. Clear?
Yes, Shiva.
That's the reason we have this issue. So what I'm trying to do right now is that, okay, I'm trying to, rather than rectify that mistake, I'm trying to use my another machine and I'm trying to start the domain.sh. You're able to see here, it picked the folder colon OPT EAP 620 as a default Jboss home. Okay? Can any one of you tell me from where is this JVM properties are getting loaded? Java_ops.
It should be from host.xml, right?
No. Whenever the domain is, whenever you say domain.sh, what is the first thing that will happen?
It will load this host.xml, right?
It will load. Prior to loading the host.xml file, from where it will try to load the properties.
So that will be defined in host.xml, right?
No. How many of you remember that we have discussed about the domain.conf file?
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Do people remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. JVM related arguments, debug, as I told you on the other day, will be there in the domain.conf file. See here, I've started my Jboss domain, Jboss in the domain mode, and let me show you the number of processes. Okay. This is a process that is related to the server 1. This is a process that is related to the server 2. This is a host controller, and this is a process controller. Clear, everyone?
Yeah. So if I have made it like remote, then it will not. There will not be any process controller, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So then in that case, it will not use domain.xml.
No, it's not using domain.xml. How it can use again the same domain.xml file? It has to connect to the remote domain.xml file.
Okay.
It will try to use the domain.xml file only for the server group and the corresponding properties.
Hey, Shiva, just question. Process control is a host control, right?
No, process controller is not a host controller. Every host process controller has the eligibility to become a domain controller.
Because you yesterday you written host/process controller.
I just load host / process controller. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, it's trying to create a confusion. If you're trying to say in this way, no. I'm a little bit lazy fellow. I try to use shortcuts for everything. That could be the reason why it got a little bit confused for you.
Okay. So host and process control are different entity, right?
Yes. Yes. And that's the reason if you observe here, we have one process ID for the host controller. There is another process ID for the process controller.
process control. So my question is, process control only run on a domain? Master?
Every process controller has got the eligibility to become a domain controller. Am I clear?
So it means wherever the process control is running, that's the master.
No. Okay. That depends upon what is the value of the host.xml file, the tag called as a domain controller.
So you mean there is a process control running in every server?
Which can become a master.
Again you confusing me, man.
Okay. Let me make it let me make it this simple. Okay. One second. Let me make it simple. Okay. So you said domain.sh. Okay. The moment you say domain.sh, what will happen? Okay. Some configuration file will be loaded. Correct? The moment you say domain.sh, okay, a configuration file will be loaded. Okay. This configuration file, we call it as a host configuration file. The name could be anything: host.xml file, host-master, host-training. It could be anything. Okay. So a configuration file will be loaded. When this configuration file is loaded, there is a host I'm saying. So this host, to control this host or the properties defined in this host, we have a host controller. Clear to here?
Yeah, host control runs in every server. That's right.
Okay, cool. Now, let's say that the value of this domain controller tag is local. What does that mean? It becomes a master. Am I clear?
Correct.
Okay. So when I'm saying it's a master, what is the responsibility of a master? Master should not only have a controlling point on the resources running locally inside it, but also the resources that connected to it. Correct or not?
Okay.
Am I clear? See, what is why we are trying to have one master? Why we are trying to have one master?
Yeah,
the reason why we have a master is to have a centralized administration. Okay. Why I'm trying to have a DMGR profile? Why can't I have 10 app server profiles? The reason why we have a DMGR profile, okay, whenever you're trying to have multiple app or custom profile is, we want to have a centralized administration point. Correct? When you open one single point, it should display every possible profile that got federated to it. Correct or not?
Yeah.
Similarly, I have the domain running on machine A, machine B, machine C, and machine D. Okay. Ideally, what I'll try to do, I'll open the. It is not a realistic scenario, just for information. Assume that you have your domain running on A, B, C, and D machines. When you're trying to run your domain on machine A, B, C, and D, what will happen? Okay, your domain will be started on all of the 4 machines. When your domain is starting on all of the 4 machines, ideally it will not be possible, but assume that there is a controlling point on A, B, C, and D. Correct? Assume that there's a controlling point or administration point on machine A, B, C, and D. Okay? But having 4 admin consoles is not easy for you. So what you decided? You decided that one fellow will become a master and all the other ones will get connected to it.
Correct.
Clear?
Okay.
One second. All the other 3 would be connected to it. So when I'm saying that all the other 3 would be connected to it, in case of a WebSphere application server, whatever the profiles you have federated, a copy of the configuration file would be there in the your DMGR config folder. Correct? Whatever the profiles you have federated, a copy of the configuration information of that profile will be there in the DMGR config. That's the reason we call it as a master config. Correct or not?
Okay.
In a similar way, whenever I have multiple domains coming in, connecting to one particular domain running on one particular machine, that machine I call it as a master. Clear?
Okay.
That machine I call it as a master. What is the purpose of a master? The purpose of a master is not only to load the information or load the configuration of its domain, but also the other domains that got connected to it. So we need a agent that runs in the background to keep a tab of it. The agent that runs in the background to keep a tab of the list of slaves that got connected to the master, we call it as a process controller. In a layman's language I'm talking, don't take this definition or discussion anywhere in interview.
So process control just runs on a master, that's what I'm telling you, right?
Okay, it runs on a master. Okay?
Correct or not?
Partially correct, partially not correct. Okay, Digesh, is this Digesh who asked me this question?
Yes.
Can I request you to park your question for another 15 minutes?
Not a problem. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you.
No
So
problem.
what we are trying to talk about, yeah, I was saying that, okay, whenever I'm trying to load the domain, by default it will load the file, host.xml file present in the Jboss home domain configuration directory. I don't want to use this host.xml file that comes by default. I want to use my own host.xml file called as an, let's say, my host.xml file. At the same time, I don't want to use my own, I don't want to use the domain.xml file that comes with the Jboss. I want to use my own domain.xml file called as in my domain.xml file. Now, how do I start the Jboss in a domain mode using my own customized domain.xml file and host.xml file? So, one second, let me just check if the process is running. Let me try to create a copy of the configuration info file. File to my host.xml file, and I am trying to replace the domain.xml file with my domain. Okay, so let's say that I got my own host file, my own domain.xml file. Now I want to load the resources. Okay, I have customized the domain.xml file, I have customized the host configuration file, and I want to start the Jboss instance using this one. How do I do that? Go to the Jboss home, build folder, domain.sh. When you're trying to start your domain, okay, you have to provide the information of your own customized configuration file. Okay, now load it. I made a mistake somewhere.
Typo.
Oh, sorry. My hyphen my domain.xml file hyphen host hyphen config my host.xml file. Name is same. Yes. Now whatever the information that is there here, it will try to load it from here. Clear?
Yeah.
Everyone clear?
Yeah, sure. So first is to load host.xml, then domain.xml.
Host.xml file. Not host.xml file, my host.xml file. I have a question here.
So yeah, my question is, so this domain.xml is not defined in the my host.xml?
No.
Okay. But
Anyone, any more questions before I ask my question?
But in default case, it will be in host.xml. The location of
Host.xml will already, yeah, host.xml file will always refer to its own configuration folder. In the background, I think in programmatical they've written in such a way that to get wherever you're having the host.xml file, they'll try to get the information of the directory and they'll try to load the domain.xml file or my domain.xml file or whatever the domain.xml file you have defined. Okay, automatically it will be loaded. I think that they are written it in a programmatic way. Clear? To take the relative path. Okay.
Yeah.
Omid, did I answer your question?
Yeah. So my question is, first it will start the process host.controller, then it will start domain controller, or first it will start process controller?
Which process it will start first? Is it the process or the host controller? I'm also not sure. But end of the day, process controller and host controller will be there. But when we try to see the response, I'm to say when we try to get the process ID information, if you see here, first thing will be a process controller, second thing will be a host controller. So I'm not sure which is the one that gets loaded. And unfortunately, even the timestamp also, it's giving the same. So I think it might be the process controller that starts first, followed by the host controller. Because from the process side is also I see the same thing. There's a first process ID that got generated. There's a second process ID I got generated. Because if you see here, 20976 is the first process ID, the number, and 20988 is the host controller process ID. 20988 is more than 20976. So with this concept, I assume that process controller is the first one that gets loaded, followed by the host controller. Okay, just my guess. I'm not sure. From this understanding, I can say it's the process controller that loads first, followed by the host controller. Clear?
Yeah, sure.
So I have got another question. If you guys don't have any, anyone, any more questions? Okay. Silence. I'll assume no questions. If you guys don't have any question, I said I have got a question. The question is that whenever I'm trying to start the Jboss instance, okay, with my own domain.xml file or host.xml file, how I can be sure that it has loaded only this configuration file, not some other configuration file? Or how do I give a guarantee that it hasn't loaded domain.xml file or it hasn't loaded the host.xml file?
I think it is giving something in when you do ps minus ef. So it is giving some information in that process itself.
Okay. How about now?
Yeah, my domain config.xml. Yeah.
Hyphen domain hyphen config. Okay, if you see here, automatically it's trying to load the configuration information from my domain.xml file. Similarly, you will have it for the host.xml file. Okay?
Yeah.
Clear?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Now, the next question is that, Shiva, I don't want my, see, the moment I'm saying domain.sh, what it is happening, it is going to the Jboss home, okay, domain configuration folder, and it's trying to load the file. I don't want it to load it from there. I want to load it from my own directory. For example, rather than Jboss EP 620, I want it to be loaded from my the temp directory. So let me say, how do I do that? Very simple. Whatever the domain configuration information you have got, copy it here. To make it a little bit different, okay, I'm trying to change the name of my host.xml file as temp, just so that we can make the difference easily. I'll not load any servers so that it can start still more quickly. Okay, so now I have got my domain related configuration information, domain related log information, domain related servers, everything. I'm having it here. So let me also I don't have any server, so let me delete the servers folder. So I want my controller to load my domain related information from here. How do I do that? Very simple. OPT, so not JBC. OPT EAP bin domain.sh -d jboss dot domain dot server dot d base dot dir equal to, okay, this is how we try to load it. Am I clear?
Yes, sure.
I think I messed up something. Did I mess up anything? Okay, one second. I can confirm you right away. Yes, it's correct. Okay, yep. So this is how we try to start it. Anyone, any question? How do we load the? How do we create our own customer's domain home directory, and how do we start the domain using that particular customer's domain directory? Everyone clear? If you're clear, I have a question.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Did you see something like this concept previously in our previous discussion?
Yeah, in standalone used. Yes.
Can anyone help me out with the command?
Standalone.sh and then same Jboss and base directory, and I don't remember the exact, but it was the same syntax.
Cool. Excellent. At least someone remember that we discussed about that. Excellent. Okay. So this is in a case of a standalone OPT bin standalone.sh -d jboss dot base dot jboss dot server dot base dot dir equal to whatever is your customer standalone home directory. Clear?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Now next question comes. Okay, Shiva, how about the master? All this time you're trying to talk about the master. How about the slave? Okay. For that, let me again edit the configuration file here. Let me try to use a file called as host.slave.xml file. Let me name this one as slave. Give any name. Just to easily remember that this is a slave, I'm editing this. Okay, it has some servers or JVMs inside it. I don't want to use any one of them. And the value for this domain address is the same localhost 127.0.0.1. Yeah. Now I made this one as a slave, but there should be a master. Let's say that my master is this is my master. Yeah. So first, let me start the master. Why should I start the master first? Can't I start the slave first? Is it a rule or is it just a process?
It should be a rule actually.
Why?
Master should be started first.
Because it has to take permission from master, right?
No, not permission exactly. But whenever you're trying to start a slave, okay, in your configuration file, you clearly told that, okay, this is a location you need to get connected. But if the master is not available up and running on this address and this port number, what it will happen? It will try to throw the exception. Connection time dot unable to connect. Connection time dot connection time dot connection time dot. Clear? Okay. So let me start the master first.
So you are running master and slave on the same host?
Yes. Anything I need to take care of?
Yes, same host, only just ports.
Perfect. So you have to take care of the ports. Okay. So I just got only one port that I need to update, which is this one, the CLI port. Since I don't have any servers in my slave, no need to think about the server port number. Clear, everyone? Am I clear to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. So my master started. Now let me start my slave. How do you start my slave? How do you start my slave?
You update it in the different XML file, hosted.xml, my
I won't
hosted.xml.
host a slave.xml file where using which people will know that it's a configuration file related to the slave. So how do I start it?
-d, Jboss, something like that.
No, config,
No.
you give the config file address.
Clear? Am I clear?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Why I've written this one? Why I've written this one? Clear? The
So
reason.
on the slave, we have to start the Jboss domain also.
Yeah, because
Domain. That's the domain mode.
it's a domain mode, no? So that's the reason I said domain.sh. I can't combine the servers in the domain and the standalone, but servers present in both domain mode, I can combine them. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we are trying to do, we are saying that hey, start the domain, but when you're trying to start the domain, don't go to the default Jboss home, but load the domain that is being defined under the path called as an temp myap. But when you're trying to load the domain from this particular configuration folder of your domain, I don't load the default host.xml file. I created my own host file called as an host-slave.xml file. That's the reason I've defined it in this way. If I define my own domain file also, then I have to say domain-config my domain.xml file. Yeah?
So this server has two host control running.
This machine or the server?
Like the same server you start slave and master, right? So it has two host controller running.
No. Okay, 1 second. Is your question saying that, Shiva, since you on the same machine, you have started the domain.sh, so that domain.sh will become both master as well as slave? Is that your question?
Yeah.
No. Since I have a problem since I don't have multiple machines, on a single machine itself, I'm trying to run both my master and slave for my own reasons. Okay. For example, let's say because of a hardware issue, since currently it's a dev project, what I did is that I ran both my master and slave on the same machine. Okay. So the master would be one Jboss home, slave would be another Jboss home. That's the reason when I'm trying to start the slave, I said don't load the domain present inside the OPT EAT620 domain folder, but load the domain defined in this particular path.
No,
Clear?
correct. But like my question is like it will run the two process for host controller, right?
Yes. I'll show it to you here. This is a process controller, server 1 and server 2, related to the master. Guys, I have to take back one of my word. I said that we can have only one process controller. Yep, but it's two process controllers. Everyone able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we have another host controller. Okay. Sorry guys, I said we have only one process in the slave, not one process ID, two processes in the slave. Both and master and slave will have two process IDs. Assuming no security file.
Process ID run in all slaves too, right?
Yes, process controller also runs in all the other slaves also.
Okay. So
Okay.
there is two ID default runs. That is process controller and host controller.
Yes, these are the two process IDs that runs by default on any
In
machine.
domain 3 process running, Java process.
In domain?
Like master three process running. One is for domain and one is for process and one is host.
There will be only two.
Yeah, so this process controller will become master controller.
Yes.
Will act as master controller in master domain.
Yes. And this one will be for the slave.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So since you're all clear, let me launch the console. And if you see here, the moment my slave got connected to master, you see here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what will happen? My master is down. Here, if your master is down, do you have any problem?
Yeah.
Zero impact to the application, but the slave keeps on throwing an error saying that unable to make a connection, trying to connect, unable to make a connection, trying to connect. So what is the impact, Shiva? The impact is that whenever you are trying to start the slave again, you cannot start it. I'll show you here. My master is down. If you see here, my master is down. See, the connection failed, connection failed. So to avoid all this kind of a process, I'm sorry. 1 second, let me sit it down. To avoid all this kind of a headache, what you do is that whenever you're trying to start your slave, okay, by saying domain.sh, say simply domain.sh, okay, and simply say --, backup. Clear? Simply say domain.sh --, backup. What will happen? Anyone from the WebLogic background? No problem. If you're not there also, no problem. So the moment you start your slave saying --, backup, what it will try to do is that it will try to create a copy of the master on the slave. Try to create a copy of the master on the slave. So anytime if your master is done, again you can start it by saying hyphen hyphen. You can simply say hyphen hyphen cached hyphen DC, so that whatever the configuration information that is being cached, whenever your slave is getting started, it will try to load it from that particular point. Clear? I'll show you practical demo here. 1 second.
यूनाइटेड नेशंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के मुताबिक दुनिया भर में बोली जाने वाली करीब 97% भाषाओं के शब्द संस्कृत भाषा
Everyone able to see here? Now my master is down. Okay. Now when I'm trying to start my slave, what I can do? You're able to see here? Even though my master is done, still I could able to successfully launch my slave. Everyone able to see this? Guys, am I clear? Asif, Digesh, Kranti, Ombi, Sajat.
So first you have to give the backup command. And
Hyphen backup we have to give. Okay. Once you did it in that way, okay. But anytime if your master goes down for some reason, and if you're not able to start it, okay, then you can restart. For any reason, if you need to restart your slave again, you need to say hyphen hyphen cached hyphen DC. The moment you say hyphen backup, it will try to create a backup information. It will try to create a cache information of the master in your slave, so that when you're trying to start it, it will not go and try to hit the original master, but whatever it is being cached, okay, it will try to load it from there.
So when you are giving this backup command, at that time also this domain controller is down, master domain controller.
Then you cannot start the slave, or your slave cannot be available up and running.
So when you have to give this backup command while the master is up.
Yes.
So it will keep a copy locally something, and then whenever you want to start and whatever is the cached, it will take information and it will start.
Yes.
Okay.
Very handy command in production. Clear?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Hello, Shiva. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. This okay. I don't know whether I understand it correctly or not. So whenever you start the master domain, you need to first give the backup one, right? For the master.
Not for the master. Okay. Whenever you say domain.sh, assuming that you're trying to start a slave, what will happen? Okay, it will go to the corresponding master IP and port number, and it will try to load. Correct or not?
No. So no. For example, I have one master and one slave running, right? Now suddenly the master goes down, right?
Okay.
So now on the slave, what it will give the exception like it is not connected to master. So what I need to do on the slave is first kill the Java and then run as an backup and then run as an DC, cache DC 2 times?
No. When you're trying to start a slave, assuming that the master is available up and running, okay, at that time whenever you're trying to start your slave, you have to say hyphen backup.
So that could be a default one that we can give, right? Every time.
Yes.
Okay, got you. And then whenever the master is down, then you kill the Java and then again run with the cache.
It's not mandatory to kill, but if you think that there is a need for your slave to get restarted, at that time you can say domain.sh -- cache -dc.
Okay, got you. Thanks.
Yes, am I clear?
Yeah.
Cool. So if all clear, let me try to show you the GUI of my master. Oh, I can't show you the GUI. Anyone can say why I can't show you the GUI?
Localhost
Perfect.
127.
Starting on my 127.0.0.1. So I have to update it with my
IP.
IP. What is my IP? I don't want to keep any servers in my master because unless it will take a lot of time to load. If I need servers, I'll create it at a later point of time. How quickly it got started? I forgot the password.
So Shiva, for running the server, you just load the host.xml only, right?
That's it.
So when do you run domain.xml?
No need to run the domain.xml file. The moment you run the host.xml file, automatically it will go and hit the corresponding domain.xml file.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, I think I have some problem with my username and password. Anyway, since we are running out of time, I'll take this discussion tomorrow. Okay?
Okay, by the way, Sajjad bhai, you're here?
He's on mute.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh,
hey,
thank you.
Sajjad.
Happy birthday, Sajjad bhai.
Thank you.
Thank you. पार्टी तो देना पड़ता है इंडिया को आके.
पार्टी आप आए इधर आए आपको जो ना.
मैं आया था, मैं 5 साल पहले आया था. आप नहीं थे वहाँ.
ना अभी.
अजय भाई गाना गा के सुनाए, पापा कहते थे बड़ा काम करेगा.
Oh, Sajjad is a singer. Okay. Sajjad, wish you a happy birthday.
थैंक यू. सारे गाना गाऊंगा, सारे भाग जाएंगे फिर.
उसकी चिंता मत कर आप, क्योंकि गो टू मीटिंग का है, बस आप क्लोज कर दो, ऑटोमेटिकली भाग जाएंगे. I'm just kidding, don't take it seriously. But anyways, wish you happy birthday. Enjoy the day and have a happy and a prosperous year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you everybody.
Bye everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.